I do apologize about the delay. We had a bit of a real-life problem, which we have now resolved, sort of, kind of, but let's go ahead and smash through this one, shall we? So, this is, right, I kind of stopped doing this. This is Season 8, Episode 10, The Breakup Breakdown. The episode about love. And apparently confusion and assumptions, which, yeah, about tracks, doesn't it? um, Let me go ahead and start by saying that I did enjoy this episode. I probably shouldn't. This is an excellent example of an episode that is salvaged entirely by its presentation. Because the core ideas are... Yeah, anyways. And yes, the CMCs have finally aged. You can tell because they have 3 hairs instead of 2. Really getting up there. No, go ahead and close this. Sorry, I got a couple things up right now. So, the episode starts strong. I know we're not supposed to cut corners when it comes to matters of the heart, but... Hey, Discord, can you help? And the moment that starts off, it's just like, oh, wow. Yep, nope, I know where this is going. And the fact that it's actually an episode centered around Spike and Discord and Big Mac is awesome. Now, I actually, if you remember, Dungeons and Discords, which was written by Nick Confalone, was a good episode. It was just hampered by how bad it was at the same time. That's why that ended up being a yellow episode, which is true for several of these. It was still enjoyable. Where it was good, it was great. This episode feels like it took the good of that episode and just kind of expanded upon it, right? It's like, okay, let's really expand onto that, and let's actually have this be a decent character piece in addition to being fun. And that is what this episode is in a nutshell. Fun. So Spike asks Discord for help, who of course only shows up because of the fact that they're going to play Ogres and Oubliettes, which he's been wanting to play all week. I don't know if you sympathize with that, because I sure do. I mean, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since I was 7, so, you know, I know exactly what that's like. God, it's been weeks. And then you find a good group. That's always such a great feeling. You find a good group and you stick with it. It's one of the reasons I'm happy with the setup I've got right now. And the ability to play pretty much weekly if I want to. Anywho, so then Discord is anti-romance. Which, oh, hang on, actually, rewind. Sorry. First, we have Discord's giving the old standard line. You remember the line, right? About the greeting card industry. We all know that Valentine Hearts and Hooves Day has only been perpetuated by Hallmark, the greeting card industry. He actually turns into a clown for the pie, which I also find rather amusing. I love the idea that Discord is anti-romance because of 2 reasons. 1, it makes perfect sense, and 2, it makes perfect sense. Point 1. He mentions that he's a realist, and all this lovey-dovey, mammy-pammy love stuff isn't real. And he's absolutely right. Except he's using the wrong word. Love isn't tangible. You know what I mean? You can make whatever joke you want to here, but I mean, I stand by my statement. It's like friendship, which is also not tangible. And Discord has had a bit of an arc and a bit of an understanding of tangibility and blah blah blah. Yeah, you can't grab love. Again, you can make whatever joke you want there, but you can't. You can't grab friendship, right? It's not a tangible, practical thing, even though it can lead to tangible, practical benefits. It is still an intangible concept. And Discord has always had issues with that. I always find something fascinating about how Discord, despite being a chaos spirit, has spent so much of his existence mired in tangible things. Actually reaching out to and interacting with someone and forcing someone to do this, or changing something into this, or manifesting this. Frankly, I would say the only time he really started drifting into intangible things being actually relevant and beneficial to him would be far more recently, with the whole friendship arc that he went through for like 2.5 seasons. So, makes perfect sense. The other reason it makes perfect sense is one of the most consistent character traits we have for Discord is that he throws up a mask constantly and doesn't like people to see how he actually feels and how he actually thinks. This is extremely common. This is very in character for him. I'm going to skip ahead in my notes here. Later on, there's this wonderful line. It's probably the best line of the whole episode, where Spike says, "We're not like you. We can't put on a front and pretend not to love." That's a brilliant line. And the episode just lets it like slide through and doesn't even spend the time that it could have on it to really kind of dissect that. Instead, it just lets that line sit there, and then they move on to the next character beat. But that's awesome, because it gets that Spike gets Discord, and it so accurately describes Discord that he is pretending that he is throwing on the mask and just saying, yep, nope. Why would I? There's even this wonderful bit where he's like, oh, come on, don't tell me you go to Fluttershy's house because you love tea that much. And Discord's like, but I do like tea. Tea's awesome. I don't like tea myself, but, you know, I get the appeal. So they decide to go ahead and make a gentleman's wager on it. With, I don't actually have them here. I was going to pull them out. I do actually own tweezers. Mow his lawn for eternity with tweezers. That sounds, sounds like hell. I could make a reference to Voyager, but I've got a much better reference to Voyager to make later. So we find out that Derpy is still at the Postal Service, and probably shouldn't be, considering that they screwed up this particular delivery. So thanks with that. But I did actually find out. I always do a little bit of behind-the-scenes looking. I don't do nearly the in-depth level I do other stuff because I don't have time. But I did find out, apparently, one of the producers wrote a note about Sugar Bell. Except they pulled a thing, which I do semi-frequently, where I screw up which character, like Kirk Douglas instead of Michael Douglas. And instead, the producer wrote Sweetie Belle in the column rather than Sugar Bell. So they were like, yeah, sure, let's turn that into a thing. So the Sweetie Belle subplot became because of that. And it's really weird to see an A plot, B plot in one of these kinds of shows. Not MLP in specific, or even like this kind of sitcom-y sort of a show, but rather because A plot, B plots usually exist because usually a single plot is something that a writer has hard time filling out 44 minutes with. But you don't have to, but in shorter shows, which is 25 minutes, very, very rarely do you see this kind of A plot, B plot format, because you can usually fill a whole plot with just the one. We've only seen this a couple of times in MLP. So, anywho, that happens. Cool. There's this one bit where Discord is looking at all the people out in Ponyville, and Spike's like, look at how happy they are. And Discord says, but how could they be happy if they're not playing Ogres and Oubliettes? And isn't that the truth? Can we really be considered happy if we're not playing Dungeons and Dragons? Actually, real talk for just a second here. In my experience, D&D groups tend to be really flirty, I think is the word I want to use. Like, you get involved with a particular GM. I'm saying this wrong. So you play with a GM, and then there's a group of people, and, like, players rotate in and out. And there's, like, a network of players, and they all date each other, right? I cannot be the only one who's experienced that. Now, I didn't actually deal with that, because I was actually taken at the time, is the specific reason. But I have seen that so often. In fact, while I was playing under a friend of mine, one of his other players was like, hey, you want to do something later? And I'm like, I'm taken. Her response was, so? Anyways. But yeah, it's funny because the other side note to that is usually, most of the time, couples that D&D together tend to stop being couples pretty quickly. No, I'm serious. The drama is real, right? And of course, I'm sure you've at least at one point in your life, if you played D&D regularly, seen the thing where the person gives way to preferential treatment to their girlfriend or boyfriend. Because I've seen that several times. Anyways. So I love Discord snapping them back, and Spike still... I love the sequence. The storyboarding in this episode is fantastic. Whoever actually storyboarded this episode deserves a raise. Like, there's this bit where Spike's like, oh my gosh, we gotta warn Big Mac, and he starts running back. And what would normally happen in an episode like this is we'd have a transition shot, and then we'd go back to Spike being at the thing. Instead, Discord's just like, ugh. And just snaps his fingers, and then they're there, and Spike slams right into Big Mac full tilt because he wasn't expecting it. Okay, right, we need to go. She's in town, we need to go there right now. Okay, sure. Hang on. Snap back. Oh, stop doing that. This, of course, then leads to John Delancey getting some wonderful comedic material. Spike says, see, this is what love's all about. And Discord says, yes. Spike says, love is about spying in the bushes. They actually make that joke later, too. She actually didn't want to date me, Papa Nick. She just wanted to have sex. She was quite obvious about it. She just wanted a hookup. So normally I tend to hate this kind of crap. This is one of the reasons why I really dislike, or why I say I like this episode, because of presentation value specifically, is because this is a classic misunderstanding trope, right? I love you so much. I love you so much too, and I can't wait to be rid of you. Oh my God! Rush off, rush off. Soon I will be rid of this comb. I hate this comb. Ugh, and I throw it away. Okay, now where's my one true love who I loved you? You know, I hate this trope. It is, most of the reason I tend to hate this trope, though, is because it's usually done really, really badly. In this case, they make fun of it nonstop. And I'm kind of with that. Because it leans into it completely. Big Mac's like, oh God, she's gonna leave me. And Spike, I hope you caught this, Spike says, no, listen, it's probably she was talking about her cousin who she's gonna have to take care of and can't be with anymore. And Big Mac's like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Sure thing, Spike, you're reaching there, buddy. Anyways, so then Discord has his 1,000-year-old emblazoned handkerchief and says, you know what? Emergency guys' night. There's so many little gags and little details in this episode. It's one of those cases where if I mentioned them all, I'd just be sitting here all day. But I love the bit where Spike is in the background going, just goes like, fine, and gives him the extra hat. And yeah, crying inside her drink. He's, oh. We're back at the Knights bar here. You know, we're back doing the whole guys' night thing. Remember, a guy who leans cool doesn't care, because that's, I mean, who could look at a guy who's leaning as cool as this and just... there's a lot of setup payoffs. Yeah, they all got the fedoras. This is when the best line in the episode happens. We're not like you. We can't put on a front and pretend not to love. I love that, by the way. That is beautifully subtle of a line. I have to reiterate that that's a great line. Meanwhile, Big Mac is apparently channeling Batman. Why did you say that name? Was I the only one who thought that? That's probably just me. Very minor point. Very, very minor point. But this is kind of cool. As they're going by in the background, we see several couples hanging out in the background, and several of them are the same gender. I just wanted to comment on that. It's a quiet little thing, but it's a normal thing, and that's exactly what I think that should be, so that's well designed, as opposed to doing a giant flashlight thing on it, you know? So, this then leads to the girls, the CMC, trying to figure out what the heck is going on in what I can only refer to as the most hilarious way possible. And they're so girl about it. And I don't mean that in any way as an insult. It's just adorable. Did you? What are your feelings on secretly sending pies and confessions of love to someone? Are you more pro? Are you more against? So they're just adorable for a few minutes. And then we go and we find Skelenor, a barbarian, level 18 barbarian who works in the army and blah, 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 blah. This leads to kind of an awesome scene. And this is another thing the episode could have screwed up. Discord obviously wants to play Ogres and Oubliettes with his friends. He's been wanting to play all week. But as he points out, and he does demonstrate this through action, this is not just him saying this, he is trying to help Big Mac first. That is his primary goal on the priority list. He then wants to go play a game with his friends, but his first goal is still helping his friend. That's kind of awesome. And it does demonstrate, A, how close Discord has become to both Spike and Big Mac. Pay attention to the dialogue and the voice acting between Spike and Discord, because the two are so comfortable with each other. There's just a complete normalcy and a complete everyday buddies kind of a way that they talk, which shows that off camera they have developed into what I would call an actual friendship, which is kind of awesome. There's also the fact that poor Skeletor, were you used to having to... But the other thing that's cool is they've got a spyglass, which apparently works despite being a one-dimensional cardboard cutout. So Discord is trying to help in his own way, and Spike finally says, hold up. No. Another thing, new idea. I'm going to give you the worst advice possible. Spike says, if she can't find you, she can't break up with you. Pro tip, that's not how that works. Just need to mention that. Nevertheless, this leads to Discord being a typical friend for Big Mac. Now, you can take that as good or bad. This is probably one of the more interesting psychology, friendship, real-life applicable things in the entire episode. How many of you don't have to answer out loud. You don't have to answer in chat. I just want you to think it, okay? Or maybe answer out loud as you're watching. How many of you have been in a relationship and then left that relationship? Now, I will obviously raise my hand on that. I've a few times. Two times. And so the significance here, the reason I bring that up is because one of the most common things is friends. People who are allies or family members or whatever of the breakup person. One of the most common ways they try to help support that person is immediately slant against the other person. Right? Ah, well, she's just a skank, or oh, he's just a moron, or whatever, right? And so the two sides constantly, it becomes a divide thing, and these friends are like, screw that other person. Now, sometimes they do this because that's just human psychology. It's the way we operate because we are, let's be honest with ourselves, social creatures. But the other way that some people do this is because they really do want to help out their friend. And, well, one of the ways they can help them is by converting emotion. What is one of the most common uses of anger as a practical thing? I'll go ahead and answer my own question. Anger is a blanket emotion. Anger covers other emotions. If you're sad, or if you're hurt, or if you're shocked, or if you don't know how to process something, anger can be and is a very common emotion to immediately blanket and cover that emotion. So you're angry instead of being whatever, right? This is true pretty much across the board. So the friend wants to help you stop being sad and depressed, so they make you angry instead. Now, whether that's healthy or not is a substantially more complex and nuanced issue. Because even anger in moderation is fine, right? But anger also leads us to do very stupid things, and there's a whole lot of mess there, and so we just kind of, it's that within reason thing I say so often. Nevertheless, we see how Discord is still trying to help, just in his own way. Oh, screw Sugar Belle. I mean, she's the one who hurt you, and blah, blah, blah. And he does exactly this. He gets Big Mac all angry. This then leads to Big Mac literally being teleported in. Lol. And I love this bit because she's like, we need to talk. And, Miss Cake is like, whoa. No, hang on. Don't say it like that. He'll think you're breaking up with him. Oh, right. Ain't that the truth? Of course, this immediately leads to Big Mac saying, we need to talk. Speaking of which, how many of you have heard the we need to talk before in your lives? Because I have. Now, here's a bonus question. How many times has it actually involved breaking up? Again, you don't have to answer in chat. Just think about it. So, Big Mac starts doing the let me go ahead and let me try to lay this out. No, let me go first, and we need to break up. And why are you leaning? I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh during this moment, but Big Mac is just leaning against the thing, just like he was told to. It's like. Then he says, this is why I don't like talking, because words hurt. Can I go ahead and say that sentence is extremely true? The words hurt part of it. This, of course, leads to him going through town. And we see, aw, Lyra and Bon Bon. That was adorable. And then Maud and Asshole. That's less adorable. And then Cranky and Matilda. We're back to adorable again. There's this wonderful bit. Again, this is a surprisingly soft and well done character moment where Big Mac yells at Sweetie Belle for what he's hurt over. This is what I was talking about earlier. He's not actually angry. Not really. He is hurt. Anger is a blanket emotion. I mean, obviously, there are things that can make someone actually... I'm not saying that there's no such thing as angry. I'm just saying that in this circumstance, he is not actually angry. That's not the real emotion he's feeling. He is trying to push anger to cover what he's actually feeling. What's interesting about that, and what's kind of awesome about this scene, is that he immediately apologizes and says, look, I'm sorry, I'm angry and I'm taking it out on you, and that's not fair. Which is true. And she's like, no, it's okay, I get it, and I assume that, you know, it feels nice to get it out, which is true. And that leads to that whole healthy venting thing I hinted at earlier, and the nature of how a little bit of anger done properly in moderation can be a good thing, which is what Dream Whisperer also mentioned in chat. This then leads to him being like, oh my god, I need to go talk to her. I need to be honest with her. Duh. Discord has a brief moment where he sees everyone being sad and he kind of goes, And I can't be the only one that noticed that the thing he was building the bottle the whole episode, I rewound just to check this, was always the cart. That's just very Discord, isn't it? So the cart breaks down in the mud, because that's how that works, right? When you're down and you're hurt, that's when bad stuff happens. Actually, what's really happening is when you're down and hurt, you notice bad stuff more, and so it feels like it's happening more often, but it doesn't actually happen more often. Anyways, so, you know, and he goes, helps her out, and he's all right, look, listen. And it takes the whole episode for Big Mac to do the adult thing. This is also good storytelling and, frankly, a good lesson. A breakup can be hurtful, but it shouldn't be damaging, in my opinion. Now, that is my opinion. That is just my perspective on that. But if you're going to break up with someone, it should be kind of like what Big Mac does at the end of this episode. I understand. You've got your reasons. It's going to hurt, but that's okay, because I wouldn't trade what we had for anything. So I accept. Let's move on forward. And there's a lot more that could be said about that. The idea of continuing to be friends with someone after you've dated them is, in my experience, kind of a rarity. But it does happen. That is still a thing that could be a thing. And blah, 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 right? So he finally actually does the correct thing here, which is cool. And then she mentions that it was actually her cousin. Wait till I tell Spike! Wow. He was right all along. And so yeah, so he feels so much better, and he takes her to the thing, and there's happiness and joy and wonderfulness. And Spike is like, so do you agree that love exists? And Discord is like, okay, fine. Because he probably did all along. He's just, he's the kind of person who puts up a front. And then it's like, can we go play freaking Ogres and Oubliettes? Spike's like, yeah, but is Skeletor still there? I'm just wondering. Spike, she's a one-dimensional cardboard cutout that's a figment of my imagination. Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, nobody's perfect, right? Now, I could say what that is, which is it's a gag. It's a one-off gag. But I've actually spent an entire rumination discussing that exact concept before. Back in Voyager. I mentioned I had another Voyager reference. Delete the wife. I'm serious. That's a little bit more complicated than this situation, and I wouldn't actually be in favor of this situation. But it is interesting to note that they kind of touch on that, oh, so briefly. And then end on, let's be honest, a wah-wah. Add the wah-wah counter. Or Blade Runner. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I brought this up in Blade Runner as well. That is a good question, Trihexia. And that's actually it. I mean, there are several things that could be discussed here, but let's be honest with ourselves. This episode is fun, but it also bothers to have decent storytelling. Everyone's in character. It's got some good, heartfelt moments. It's got some decent subtlety. I do need to add the Rarity Crush, because I did catch that. I forget what he was saying exactly. I saw him slip that under the... Just barely slipped that under the rug there. We're actually up to this many. I apparently haven't been updating the HUD lately. Behind anything? Yeah, I'm way behind. It's actually way up here. And looks like that is. Okay. Ah, yeah, that's the one. As the great dragon poet once said. Yep, yep. This episode does what it didn't have to, and I think that pushes it above Orange for me. Because while it's a simple, fun episode, the fact that it bothers so hard to have actual good writing and actual good character beats, genuine nuance, and actual subtlety elevates it a bit. I don't think it hits purple territory. There's not that really strong oomph, that absolute critical core that is required for a purple episode, but I do think this is a red, personally. Which is funny, because this will be Mr. Nick Confalone's third red episode, if we rate it that way. And, no, we just did that one, Triaxia. We just did that one earlier. And that, yeah, it's actually a legitimately decent romance episode, which is, let's be frank, rare. If I can go ahead, no pun intended, if I can go ahead and mention something, some of my viewers who don't really know me, who just kind of vaguely watch me on YouTube, have this misunderstanding that I am anti-romance. Those people are wrong. What I tend to be is anti-Hollywood romance, and I'm going to call it that because that's where it's most common. Sometimes it's in video games, sometimes it's in shows, sometimes it's in movies, but you know what I mean when I say Hollywood romance. It's badly written nonsense, right? Yeah, romance of the week, or way too over the top in one direction, or way too over the top in the other direction, and it's just, yeah, okay. I'm actually pretty pro-romance. I'm a very softy, romantic person at heart. And so it's kind of nice to see this kind of thing when it comes to this. Now, it's there, Trihexia, but it's probably mislabeled because of Twitch. Look for the second episode labeled Lore Week. And that's probably it, Trihexia. Even though I did adjust the name in the title. Twitch sometimes doesn't update that on their end. So it'll be about 45 minutes long, to give you perspective. So yeah, no, I think this is a red, which means Nick Confalone has a pretty good record, other than the mod couple, which I hate that episode so damn much. This also means, yeah, we're decently into Season 8 and still getting reds, which I hate to keep iterating on that, but that is impressive. And next week, we have, I have no idea what. What are we covering next week? Hang on. Let's see here. Bolt Down, no idea what that is. And Marks for Effort, no idea what that is. There's also the Mean Six, A Matter of Principles, Hearthwarming Club, that's probably a Christmas episode. Friendship University, that sounds terrifying. The End in Friend, okay. Yakety Sax, okay. Yak episode. On the Road to Friendship. I only know what that one is because someone has linked me that. Ross. The Washouts, Rockhoof and a Hard Place, What Lies Beneath, Sound of Silence, Father Knows Beast. And then School Rays. Cool. I don't know what any of that is, but we will find out next week. Now, I have to go and deal with some medical stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to get some actual work done today. I hope you've enjoyed. I will see you all Tuesday for more Mega Man.